With investigators, researchers, and even politicians investigating the Roswell incident, no definitive answer was truly revealed. But were there verifiable witnesses that came forth that proved it was a flying saucer once and for all? Decide for yourself as this Paranormal TV Truth Be Told story concludes. Times were indeed different in 1947. This was before the era of Vietnam. The 60s and Watergate had not happened. It wasn't yet common practice to question everything the government did. It wasn't until 1978 that the file on Roswell was reopened. Stanton Friedman, nuclear physicist, author, and popular lecturer, is the person who stumbled on this extraordinary story.
In the course of my lecturing, of course, because I take such a strong stand, the lecture is flying saucers are real. I'm not an apologist or ufologist. A lot of people tell me lots of things. And once when I was in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, at a television station, waiting for a third interviewer, and the station manager's giving me coffee because the girl was late, out of the blue, no previous connection, anything we'd talked about. He says, you know, the guy you ought to talk to is Jesse Marcel. Who's he? Oh, well, he handled pieces in one of these saucers when he was in the military. That got my attention, as you can imagine. I said, well, is he alive? Do you know him? Oh, yeah, he lives over in Houma. I had the faintest idea where Houma, Louisiana was then. I've been there since, of course. We're old ham radio buddies. Great guy. They staged a launch of a radar reflector from a weather balloon and loudly proclaimed, fantasy of flying disc is explained here. All these pictures deal with this silly little radar reflector on a weather balloon. General Ramey gives the explanation. Next day they stage the launch. The media are there. It goes out on the wire. And that was the end of the flying saucer craziness.
The first release, all that material was taken out. Some of it, I understand, got into papers in other parts of the country off the original release. But I spent about 15 or 20 years not knowing whether that was true or not, because this story was really hushed up. I mean, it was shut up entirely.
Judd Roberts managed the story in Roswell, where Frank Joyce worked. He recalled that dropping the entire story wasn't a request, it was an order.
I had a call from Washington the next day, right after that, after the news deal had come out, and saying that if we put anything on the air at all, that they were monitoring us, and if there was anything on the air at all, frankly, they'd pull our license. He wasn't talking about a hearing or anything. He said it'll be canceled not later than tomorrow morning.
There are many reports of witnesses being threatened or bullied, and in some cases in the military, there were reports of individuals being shipped off to remote locations. All this to keep a lid on the story.
Nobody knew about this site except some of the civilians involved, and they were actually threatened into submission. The military went to their homes, they sequestered them at the base and reinforced their oaths of secrecy with physical threats. In other words, you will come to bodily harm if you ever say a word about this.
When people like Stanton Friedman, Don Schmidt, and others went to federal agencies and began probing, they found that the U.S. government was anything but cooperative.
Back in the late 70s, went after the CIA, everybody's favorite target, you know. We want all your UFO information. We don't have any UFO information. You do too. We do not. We appeal. They deny. We go to court. The judge says, do a search of your files, gentlemen, at the CIA. They come back, oh, we found 900 pages of UFO information. After saying they had none, you understand. I naturally filed with the CIA for their 23 UFO documents. They're supposed to respond in 10 working days. That's pretty quick, and you know what's going on. 35 months later, they responded. They agreed to release the first 9. I was ecstatic until I looked at them. We're talking 23 documents, 9's pretty good. They were press abstracts of Eastern European newspaper articles about flying saucers, which the Russians had the day they were published. Their own 14 documents they withheld. They tried to discourage me from appealing. I appealed. 2 years after that, so it took me 5 years, they agreed to release tiny portions of 3 of those documents. This is a released
CIA UFO document. Very informative. There are about 8 words or so that you can read there, none of which tell you anything.
Though official information is tough to come by, investigators press onward, possibly inspired by increasing public curiosity.
So the question is, why are they still withholding all this information? Why the cover-up after all these years?
If you had some sort of a national security situation, people just wouldn't talk about it.
I can't imagine any kind of security need from the year of 1947, which may have been valid then, being still valid almost 50 years later.